Have you ever wondered where a shooter vanishes amid a raging river in the misty dawn over the Mississippi? A silhouette rises from the depths, strong white American woman Sarah Thorne. 62 athletic build with full bust, angular determined face, short silver hair, sharp blue eyes exuding powerful allure, rifle in hand. Panicked seal whispers echo where's the shooter, evoking buried secrets, age-related loss, and curiosity about a female hero facing bias. Does peaceful life in Riverton hide war's pain? Nestled along the banks of the Mississippi in Riverton, Mississippi. A quaint Southern American town where time seems to linger like the humid air. This place evokes memories of Wotoborn Tuatru in Vietnam for U.S. veterans who call it home. The river flows calmly, its waters whispering stories of resilience and sacrifice, much like the tales shared at local VFW halls. But for Sarah Thorne, that calm is a fragile veil over a storm within. Sarah lives isolated on the outskirts, running a modest bait shop that serves as both livelihood and sanctuary. Her strong allure tanned white skin from years under the sun. A balanced, muscular figure honed by discipline draws glances, but often not the kind ones. Elderly male locals, many veterans themselves, tease her as the old woman playing soldier, their words laced with the prejudices of a bygone era where women like her were rare in uniform. Stick to hooks and lines. Sarah, they'd say with a chuckle that masked deeper biases. Leave the real fighting to the boys. It stings, reminding her of the glass ceilings she shattered, only to face them again in retirement. Deep within, Sarah carries a wound that no time can fully heal PTSD from losing her husband and son in Afghanistan. In a brief flashback, she recalls the day the letter arrived, her husband's final words, recounting their sacrifice due to corrupt defective gear, supplied through shadowy arms deals that prioritized profit over lives. "We fought for what was right," he wrote, "but the real enemy was closer than we knew." That loss compounds her elderly loneliness, declining health with shaky hands that once held steady on a sniper rifle, economic struggles from meager veteran benefits that barely cover bills, and a profound feeling of being left behind by a society that honors service in words but forgets in deeds. It touches the compassion for family loss, a pain many seniors know too well: the empty chair at dinner, the silence where laughter once echoed. Yet, Sarah applies military discipline daily as a lifeline. She practices combat breathing while fishing at dawn, inhaling deeply to cast her line, exhaling to reel in, a ritual inspiring life skills to overcome PTSD. Scanning the tree lines across the river isn't paranoia, it's instinct, a way to stay sharp amid the fog of memory. These habits remind her, and perhaps you, dear listener, of how small acts of control can conquer inner chaos. A lesson for anyone facing age's trials. The human element shines in her weekly grave visits, where she kneels by the stones, marking her loved ones, whispering prayers that blend sorrow with strength. Quietly, she aids local veterans slipping extra bait to a struggling WW2 survivor, or listening to a Vietnam vet's stories over coffee, evoking nostalgia for camaraderie and American pride. Semper audax, she murmurs, the W. Reed quote meaning always bold, a mantra that fueled generations through foxholes and beyond. The loop closes as she changes her shirt after a long day. The eagle tattoo on her back revealing itself a symbol of freedom and vigilance, hinting at underwater sniper skills from missions long classified. It's a reminder that beneath the present's calm surface lies a warrior's depth, ready to emerge when called. In Riverton, Sarah's life is a testament to enduring, touching hearts with the quiet heroism of those who've served and survived. What forces an elderly female soldier out of isolation? For Sarah Thorne, it began on a crisp autumn morning in her bait shop, the scent of damp earth and river mud mingling with the quiet rhythm of her daily routine. The bell jingled, and in walked Police Chief Harlan Brooks, an elderly male veteran with a Vietnam limp and eyes that had seen too much, his weathered face, etched with the same lines of service and loss that marked her own, carried a gravity that made Sarah pause mid-stock, her shaky hand setting down a box of lures. "Morning." "Sarah," Harlan said, leaning on the counter like an old comrade. "Thought you'd want to know about some new folks in town. A development company sniffing around South Bend, led by a slick type named Richard Kane, talking resorts and condos. But their security's military-grade armed patrols, fenced perimeters. Doesn't smell like civilian work to me." Sarah's sharp blue eyes narrowed, her athletic frame tensing beneath her flannel shirt. She'd heard whispers of such projects before, facades for military corruption, arms deals that funneled defective gear to troops while lining pockets with blood money. Kane's name stirred a vague unease, a shadow from her Afghanistan days. As Harlan left, Sarah locked up early and drove to a secluded river spot, her mind cataloging the threat. Corruption like this had cost lives, turning heroes into statistics for profit. It touched a raw nerve, evoking outrage over the wasted sacrifices that plagued veterans like her good men and women betrayed by the very system they served. That evening, as twilight fell over the Mississippi, an anonymous email pinged on her old laptop. From a WEU ally, it read, encrypted in a code only veterans would recognize. "Kane is the betrayer from Helmand. Hunting lost SAD from 68 backpack nuke hidden during Operation Broken Ridge. Official cover-up. Stop him before history repeats." The small shock hit like a grenade. Kane, the CIA liaison who'd sold out her team for millions, causing the ambush that stole her family. A brief flashback gripped her the dusty Afghan pass, her son's radio crackling in panic, faulty gear jamming as bullets flew, all due to corrupt deals. It educated on the dark underbelly of military history. The Cold War SADM, a portable nuclear device for special forces, small yet devastating, lost in transport and buried to avert catastrophe. Inspiring delayed justice. It fueled her resolve for the fallen, for the truth. The loop closed as she retrieved her husband's faded letter from the drawer. Overcome prejudices. Sarah. Fight for what's right, no matter the cost. Those words, echoing through her isolation, propelled her forward, from the shadows of Riverton into the gathering storm. Why does she nearly quit amid harsh prejudices in the wake of that fateful email and her husband's echoing letter? Sarah Thorne found herself teetering on the edge of resolve, the weight of years pressing down like the humid Mississippi air. Sleepless nights became her tormentor, the bait shop's creaking floorboards a soundtrack to her inner turmoil. She paced the dim room, her sharp blue eyes shadowed with doubt, fearing that age and prejudices would break her where bullets had failed. A brief flashback seized her, not the raw loss of her husband, but a deeper layer. His letter's resilience lesson, scribbled in fading ink. Strength isn't in the fight, but in rising after the fall. The words felt distant now, as she grappled with the terror of reopening old wounds, her declining health a constant reminder that time had stolen her edge. The external outrage came swiftly, amplifying her fears. Police Chief Harlan Brooks, that steadfast, elderly male veteran who'd first brought the news, now wavered when Sarah shared her suspicions about Kane. "Sarah, you're a fine woman, but this ain't for an old lady like you," he said with a paternal shake of his head. his Vietnam scars visible under his shirt. "Leave it to the authorities. Meddling in men's affairs could get you hurt." The words stung, touching the raw nerve of gender and age biases she'd battled her whole career, dismissed in briefings, overlooked for promotions, always proving twice as hard. Locals at Mabel's diner piled on, elderly men chuckling over coffee. Old woman playing soldier again, stick to your hooks. Sarah, the river's no battlefield. It infuriated, evoking empathy for the invisible struggles of women who served, a quiet rage that mirrored the frustrations of our elderly male listeners who've witnessed or felt similar dismissals in their own lives. Education and life skills became her anchor amid the storm. To conquer PTSD's grip, Sarah turned to controlled breathing, a technique drilled in Bud S training, inhaling for 4 counts, while visualizing the river's calm, exhaling to release the chaos. But nearly quitting came in a heart-wrenching moment. Alone in her cabin, she pulled her old service pistol from the safe, her shaky hands fumbling the grip, a cruel reminder of age's betrayal. "What's an old fool like me thinking?" she whispered, the weapon heavy with doubt, nearly setting it down for good. The loop reignited as her eagle tattoo seemed to vibrate against her skin, a symbol of vigilance and freedom from missions past. In that compassionate detail, she thought of her grandchildren's innocent faces in photos, the next generation who deserved a world free from corruption's shadows. It propelled her, not just for herself, but for them, turning doubt into a flickering flame of resolve. Who awakens her hidden strength, with the eagle tattoo's vibration still echoing in her mind, and thoughts of her grandchildren fueling a fragile resolve. Sarah Thorne knew she couldn't face Cain alone. The prejudices and doubts had nearly broken her, but they also ignited a spark to seek those who understood the fire within. Driving through Riverton's winding roads, lined with oaks that whispered of southern resilience, Sarah headed to the one place where history and wisdom intertwined, the modest home of Eleanor Hayes, an 85-year-old Buandu female intelligence operative whose name was legend among veterans. Eleanor, with her frail frame but piercing gray eyes that had decoded enemy secrets in the shadows of Europe, represented a fresh beacon, a woman who'd shattered gender barriers long before Sarah was born. Sarah knocked on the weathered door, her shaky hands betraying her nerves. Eleanor opened it with a knowing smile, her voice steady despite the years. "Come in, child. I've been expecting someone like you." Over tea in a living room adorned with faded medals and yellowed photos of code-breaking teams, Eleanor shared untold stories of overcoming gender barriers dismissed as just secretaries by male superiors, yet cracking enigma-like puzzles that turned tides in the war. "They called us invisible," Eleanor said softly, her words inspiring resilience for an elderly audience who remembered those days. She taught Sarah steganography and encryption, simple yet powerful military skills, hiding messages in images, a technique from Bobaintur that could expose Cain's digital trails. "It's not about strength of body," Eleanor whispered, "but of mind and heart." The lesson built empathy, reminding Sarah and listeners of how women like them had always fought unseen battles, fostering warm compassion for the unsung heroes of the past. As Eleanor's guidance took root, Sarah reached out to old teammates, reuniting them in a quiet VFW hall where American flags hung like silent guardians. First came Mike Daniels, a 60-year-old male veteran with a bull-like build and scars from Helmand, his gruff demeanor hiding a heart heavy with loss. Then Kate Reynolds, a younger female operative in her 40s, sharp and skeptical, her auburn ponytail swinging as she entered. Initially doubting Sarah, they voiced prejudices born of experience. "You're not the ghost we remember," Mike grumbled. "Age changes things," Kate added. "We can't risk it with someone past their prime." The tension provoked outrage at the biases Sarah had faced anew, touching the empathy of elderly male listeners who'd seen comrades dismissed for age. But in that human moment, they shared family losses, Mike's brother fallen to faulty gear, Kate's sibling, Sarah's son, in the same ambush. Tears flowed as they recounted the pain, gradually uniting in shared grief. "We all carry ghosts," Sarah said, her voice steady. Education flowed naturally. Funo Diasuako history through Eleanor's Phantom Squad, quote, "Shadows win wars," and military skills like hidden image hacks, inspiring resilience for an elderly audience facing their own fading strengths. The loop closed as Sarah pulled out her husband's letter, linking it to Eleanor's wisdom. He wrote of overcoming prejudices, just like your stories. It created warm compassion, binding them in a circle of support, awakening Sarah's hidden strength for the trials ahead. Where will River Secrets lead her, with Eleanor's encryption lessons etched in her mind and her teammates' tentative trust forged in shared losses? Sarah Thorne stepped irrevocably into the fray, the Mississippi's calm surface belying the turmoil beneath. No longer could she linger in Riverton's shadows. The call to justice propelled her forward, her eagle tattoo a silent vow as she gathered her gear, a worn backpack with concealed compartments for her service pistol and binoculars. Relics from days when her hands didn't shake. Sarah began by tracking Kate Reynolds, the deceased teammate's sister, whose name had surfaced in Eleanor's untold stories. Kate, a mid-40s woman with auburn ponytail and a lean, practical build, had rented a cabin near Sawyer's Creek, paying cash and keeping to herself. Sarah's surveillance started at dawn, positioned on a ridge overlooking the river, her military binoculars high-grade optics with rangefinders sweeping the terrain. She watched Kate hike along the banks, ostensibly photographing landscapes. But Sarah's trained eye caught the anomaly: Kate's posture, back to the wall, eyes scanning in measured patterns, clear view of exits. "Not a tourist," Sarah murmured, her heart quickening with the familiar adrenaline of ops long past. Action unfolded as Sarah tailed her discreetly through the woods, using natural cover-fallen logs and dense foliage to avoid detection, her combat breathing steadying her shaky hands. The misdirecting twist came on the fourth day. Sarah followed Kate to a vantage point above South Bend, where Kane's development trailers hummed with activity. Kate set up a spotting scope, observing the site with precision that screamed military training. Sarah's pulse raced. Was Kate an enemy? Perhaps Kane's scout? But as Kate left, Sarah examined the spot, perfect concealment, multiple escape routes, and unearthed a buried cigarette butt, Marlboro Red, crushed in a distinctive way, that night in Flagstaff's internet cafe to avoid local traces. Sarah's hack revealed Kate's true identity: Rachel Harper in disguise, Office of Naval Intelligence, sister to her fallen son. The revelation hit like a wave. Kate seemed enemy, but was ally, her mysterious cobra tattoo glimpsed in a photo symbolizing underwater sniper skills, a shared legacy of hidden warriors. Education in sightline tactics touched combat nostalgia. Sarah taught her teammates the art of assessing cover positions and potential threats, scanning tree lines not for scenery, but for sniper perches. "Civilians see beauty," she explained, her voice steady despite age's toll. "We see survival." It inspired life skills for overcoming doubts, reminding elderly listeners of their own battlefield wisdom, evoking pride in American service, where every glance could mean life or death. As the team coalesced, Sarah crossed the threshold fully, the river's secrets pulling her deeper into danger, her resolve hardened by allies old and new. What prejudices will initial tests expose? With Kate Reynolds revealed as an ally and her cobra tattoo symbolizing shared underwater sniper skills, Sarah Thorne and her team plunged deeper into the shadows of the Mississippi, the river's secrets now their battlefield. The threshold crossed. They faced a series of challenges that tested not just their skills, but the very bonds holding them together, multi-layered conflicts, where external threats intertwined with internal doubts and personal demons. The external trials began with infiltrating Kane's camp at South Bend, a fortified setup disguised as a development site, but buzzing with military precision. Sarah led the way, her sharp blue eyes scanning through binoculars as they approached under cover of night. The team, Mike Daniels, the 60-year-old male veteran with his demolitions expertise, and Kate, the younger female operative, moved like ghosts, using natural concealment along the riverbank. But confrontation came swift. Ex-Spetsnaz mercenaries, tall and disciplined with Eastern European builds, patrolled the perimeter. In mini-climax 1, as they breached the fence, a river explosion trap detonated Mike's foot, triggering a hidden pressure plate, sending water and debris skyward. Chaos erupted, bullets whizzing as Sarah dove into the shallows, her athletic build cutting through the current. With combat breathing steadying her shaky hands, she pulled Mike to safety, her voice calm amid the panic. "Stay with me. Brother, we've survived worse." The save not only preserved the team but exposed the camp's defenses, a small victory touching the compassion for camaraderie that resonates with elderly veterans who've pulled comrades from harm's way. Internal group conflict simmered, provoking outrage at lingering prejudices. Mike, gruff and battle-hardened, opposed Sarah's leadership on gender grounds. "This ain't no place for an old lady calling the shots," he grumbled during debrief, his words echoing the biases she'd fought her career. Kate defended her, but the tension fractured unity, infuriating with its familiarity touching elderly male audiences who empathize with overlooked strengths in women they've served alongside. Sarah proved her worth through an encryption hack on a captured laptop, using Eleanor's steganography to decode hidden files, revealing Kane's arms deals. But a small twist misdirected. The hack uncovered an internal ally betrayer, Mike's old contact, feeding info to Kane. The revelation stung, but Sarah's steady resolve turned outrage into action. Prejudices divide us. Trust unites us. On a personal level, the tests dredged up compassion through a flashback to her son's loss, adding a layer of joyful family memory to soften the pain. Amid the infiltration's aftermath, as adrenaline faded, Sarah collapsed against a tree, her mind flashing to a sunlit picnic years ago, her son laughing, husband beaming, a moment of pure joy before the corrupt gear stole it all. The compassion for family loss nearly broke her, tears mixing with river mist. But she rose, whispering, "For you, I'll fight on." It inspired, rising above despair, a life skill for conquering inner shadows. Education in life skills emerged through teamwork over bias. Sarah taught the group that true unity comes from valuing each other's strengths, not stereotypes. In a deep detail of veterans' emotional sharing around a campfire debrief, Mike opened up about his brother's death to similar corruption. Kate shared her sibling's sacrifice, and Sarah revealed her PTSD struggles. "Teamwork isn't blind obedience," she said. "It's seeing beyond the surface." The loop culminated as her eagle tattoo revealed in battle during the explosion shirt torn, the symbol gleaming under moonlight, inspiring unity. a beacon that turned fractured allies into a forged force, ready for deeper trials. Will the river storm swallow secrets? As the tests forged, Sarah Thorne and her team into a cohesive unit. The true heart of the mission loomed the inmost cave, where the lost SADM nuclear device lay hidden beneath the Mississippi's treacherous depths. The prejudices exposed and overcome now fueled their drive. But the barriers ahead were harsher than any they'd faced. A major battle against nature and man that tested the limits of body and spirit. The dive for the SADM began under a gathering storm, the sky darkening like an omen over South Bend. Sarah, her athletic build clad in a tactical wetsuit, led the team to a secluded inlet, the river churning with wind-whipped waves. "This is it," she said to Mike and Kate, her voice steady despite the cold dread in her veins. The harsh conditions assaulted them immediately. Cold water pierced like needles, numbing her aging, shaky hands that once held rifles with unerring precision. Visibility dropped to mere feet in the murky depths, the current pulling with relentless force, threatening to drag them into oblivion. Sarah's rebreather recycled her breaths, but each stroke forward was a war against her body's betrayal, arthritis flaring in her joints. Memories of youth's vigor mocking her now. Mike struggled with his demolitions gear. Kate's cobra tattoo, a silent reminder of their shared underwater legacy. But the storm turned the river into a beast. Waves crashing above as they descended 20 feet to the cave entrance. Amid the turmoil, they navigated the narrow crevice, flashlights cutting through sediment like knives in fog. Harsh barriers mounted rock formations loomed suddenly, scraping wetsuits, while the pressure built, testing their resolve. Sarah's mind raced. Failure meant Kane claiming the device, a catastrophe echoing Cold War fears. But in the chamber's air pocket, they surfaced, gasping, only to face the twist a hidden compartment revealed not just the SEM, but a steganography-encrypted video disc, taught by Eleanor, decoding it on a waterproof tablet. The footage exposed Kane's Pentagon link, a high-ranking insider funneling arms deals, the same corruption that doomed her family. Outrage boiled at the betrayal, evoking untold curiosity as the video tied to Operation Broken Ridge, where survivors hid the nuke to prevent misuse. "This isn't just a weapon," Sarah whispered. "It's proof of decades of lies." The revelation fueled fury over systemic corruption, touching the elderly audience's memories of wasted wars, where loyalty was sold cheap. The human element deepened in a touching moment of compassion as they secured the device. Sarah shared her husband's grave story with Kate, the ally who'd lost a brother, her son. "He died because of gear like this, peddled by men like Kane," Sarah said, her voice cracking in the grotto's echo. Kate touched her arm, sharing her own loss. A bond of shared grief, educating on nuclear history, the SADM's 10-ton yield. A relic of paranoia that could still devastate. It touched, lost compassion, reminding listeners of families torn by service, the quiet pain of widows and orphans. In that vulnerability, Sarah nearly faltered, her shaky hands fumbling the case. But Kate's encouragement, "For them, we dive deeper," reignited her fire. With the SADM in tow, they exited amid worsening storm, barriers closing in currents stronger, visibility nil. Sarah's leadership shone, guiding them through. The cave's secrets not swallowed but claimed, setting the stage for the ordeal ahead. Will the decisive moment change everything? As the storm raged above the Mississippi, Sarah Thorne and her team emerged from the inmost cave with the SADM secured, its weight a grim reminder of the stakes. But the river, once a hiding place, now became the arena for the main climax, a life-death intensity where every breath could be the last. The barriers crossed, the secrets claimed. But Kane's forces closed in, turning the extraction into a desperate river battle. The ambush struck without warning as they surfaced in a secluded cove, the team's boat rocking violently in the waves. Kane's ex-Spetsnaz mercenaries, alerted by the storm's chaos, opened fire from the banks, bullets slicing through the rain like deadly hail. "Incoming!" Mike shouted, his bull-like build shielding Kate as he returned fire with his carbine. Sarah dove back into the depths, her athletic frame cutting through the cold water, her shaky hands gripping the suppressed MK-23 pistol. Teammate sacrifice came swiftly. Mike took a hit covering their retreat, his gruff voice fading as he slumped. "Go. Finish it for the boys." The loss hit like a gut punch, evoking compassion for the bonds of service, a pain elderly veterans know all too well, the empty spot in the line where a brother once stood. Sarah sniped from the depths, echoing the title's mystery, her cobra tattoo now a symbol shared with Kate, guiding her like a talisman. Positioned underwater, she used rebreather to mask bubbles, sighting through the murk with night vision goggles, adapted for submersion. One by one, she took down assailants on the bank, her shots precise despite the current's pull. The river, her ally in concealment. But the intensity peaked as Kane himself appeared on a speedboat, his silver hair whipping in the wind, directing the assault with cold command. "Find the device," he barked, his voice cutting through the thunder. The major twist misdirected everything. As Sarah surfaced briefly for air, Kane's spotlight caught her, his face twisting in recognition. "You, the ghost from Helmand," he sneered. But then his eyes widened at her features, the angular face, sharp blue eyes mirroring his own. "No, my daughter." The family surprise exploded like a depth charge. Kane was the deceased teammate's birth father, a secret affair from his CIA days, abandoning Sarah's mother before she was born. The personal betrayal outrage surged. Kane had indirectly caused her son's death through his corruption, now revealed as bloodkin. "You sold us out for money," Sarah gasped, the revelation misdirecting her rage from enemy to kin, a twist that deepened the wound of wasted sacrifices. High outrage built as prejudices pushed Sarah to the brink. Kane mocked her over the roar. "An old woman thinking she can play hero age has dulled you." The words echoed the biases from Riverton, from her career, infuriating with their dismissal of her strength, nearly collapsing under the emotional torrent flashbacks to joyful family memories. With her son clashing with this monstrous revelation, Sarah teetered on despair. But she rose triumphantly, satisfaction swelling as she sniped his boat's engine, forcing a confrontation. Kane, wounded and cornered, admitted through gritted teeth, "My daughter, stronger than I thought." The concession was bittersweet, a validation touching the elderly audience's empathy for late-life reckonings. Education in underwater tactics fueled the intensity Sarah explained to Kate, via comms, the loop of controlled submersion using currents for positioning, rebreather for stealth, a skill from Phantom Squad legacies. Her husband's letter and eagle tattoo fueled her power, the ink seeming to pulse as she aimed, inspiring that resilience transcends betrayal. In this ordeal, life hung by a thread. But Sarah's triumph turned the river from grave to gateway. What reward awaits the female hero as the river's fury ebbed and Kane's twisted legacy lay shattered? Sarah Thorne hauled the Tatum from the depths, its cold metal case a hard-won prize against decades of corruption. Gasping for air on the muddy bank, her athletic build trembling from exhaustion, she met the eyes of her teammates Mike and Kate, battered but alive. "Sarah, you saved us all," Mike rasped, his gruff facade cracking as he pulled her into a bear hug, the man who'd once doubted her age and gender now bowing in respect. Kate, tears streaking her face, clasped her hand. The ghost has risen. Their honor was a balm to old wounds, a sweet victory that affirmed her strength, touching the compassion of those who felt invisible in their later years, the quiet nod from comrades, meaning more than any medal. Back at the safe house, Eleanor's voice crackled over the radio, her 85-year-old wisdom shining through, phantom revived. "Sarah, you've breathed life into the shadows we once walked." The praise evoked Tumutu's unsung heroines, inspiring resilience for an elderly audience who've carried their own burdens in silence, reminding them that legacy endures beyond the fight. Securing the Sadiem meant delivering it to uncorrupted hands, dismantling Kane's network and ensuring no more families suffered from defective gear's cruel toll, a justice that healed not just the mission, but the soul. The human element bloomed in a moment of profound healing, alone with the dawn's gentle light filtering through her cabin window. Sarah unfolded her husband's final letter, its pages soft from countless readings. "Your courage will light the way, my love," he wrote, words that now wove through her pain like threads of gold. Tears came, but they cleansed the PTSD's grip, loosening as she envisioned her grandchildren hearing these stories, a family legacy of overcoming loss and prejudice. It inspired hope, turning grief into grace, a sweet reward where victory wasn't just over enemies, but over the heart's deepest scars. Is the return path riddled with traps, with the Sadma secured, and Kane's admission echoing in her ears? Sarah Thorne began the arduous journey back to Riverton, the river's storm subsiding, but the dangers far from over. The sweet victory tasted bitter as the team evaded patrols, the device's weight a constant reminder of the catastrophe averted. But Kane, though wounded, was not defeated. His pursuit turned the return into a gauntlet of unexpected challenges, testing the resilience she'd just reclaimed. Kane's forces rallied quickly, their speedboats cutting through the Mississippi like knives, engines roaring in the fading rain. Sarah, Mike, and Kate raced toward town in their rigid hull inflatable, the Sadm strapped securely. "They're gaining," Kate warned, her voice tense over the comms. Sarah's sharp blue eyes scanned the banks, her athletic build braced against the waves, shaky hands gripping the wheel. The mini-climax erupted in Riverton itself, a town trap where Kane's mercenaries had set up roadblocks, endangering civilians. As they approached the outskirts, gunfire erupted from hidden positions, bullets pinging off the boat. Sarah swerved into a side channel, her mind flashing to the innocent lives at stake families like hers, children playing by the river, elderly locals who'd teased her but now needed protection. "We can't lead them into town," she commanded, beaching the boat and ordering a stand. In a fierce exchange, Sarah protected civilians, directing a group of fishermen to safety while sniping from cover, her suppressed rifle whispering death to the attackers. Mike's demolitions rigged a quick barrier, exploding a bridge to cut off pursuit, but not without cost. A stray round grazed Kate, her cobra tattoo smeared with blood, evoking compassion for the bonds forged in fire. The twist deepened the system outrage as they hunkered in a safe house. Sarah hacked Kane's exposed network using Eleanor's steganography, uncovering the Pentagon insider revealed as an old ally from her SEAL days, a mentor who'd trained her in underwater tactics. "He was like a father," Sarah whispered, betrayal cutting deeper than any wound, his corruption tying back to the defective gear that killed her family. The revelation misdirected her grief into fury, exposing layers of deceit that reached the highest levels. "This goes beyond Kane," Mike growled, his own losses resurfacing in shared outrage. Sarah, drawing on life skills of controlled breathing, exposed the insider via an anonymous upload to trusted channels, her encryption hack dismantling the network piece by piece. It educated on the shadows within the system, inspiring that true justice demands vigilance against internal enemies. Through the traps, Sarah's return transformed her, the prejudices overcome, the team unbreakable, the path back not just to Riverton, but to a reclaimed purpose, setting the stage for resurrection. Will the ultimate twist flip the odds? As the pursuit's echoes faded and the system outrage from the insider's exposure lingered, Sarah Thorne faced her final resurrection, a rebirth from the brink where prejudices and betrayals threatened to bury her forever. The road back had been riddled with traps. But now, with the Saddam en route to secure hands and Kane's forces in disarray, the climax shifted to Riverton's heart, where the river bent like a serpent ready to strike. Kane, desperate and cornered, rallied his remaining mercenaries for a last stand at the town bridge, his silver hair matted with sweat, his eyes burning with the revelation of their blood tie. "This ends now. Ghost," he shouted over the megaphone, his boat anchored mid-river, spotlights sweeping the banks. Sarah, presumed downed in the town trap, her death misdirecting as she'd slipped underwater amid the chaos, positioned herself in the depths, her athletic build buoyed by the current, shaky hand steadying the specialized underwater rifle. The snipe from the river eliminated Kane in a single, precise shot, the bullet whispering through the water's surface like justice long delayed. But the twist unfolded as her eagle tattoo, visible in the spotlight's brief flash, revealed itself as Morse code, a family-encrypted message inked years ago by her husband, dots and dashes spelling "truth endures," a hidden vow against corruption that now symbolized the ultimate flip, misdirecting the assumption of her demise and exposing the personal code that tied her legacy to the fight. The shot rang out, Kane jerking violently before collapsing, his empire crumbling with him. Mercenaries, witnessing their leader's fall, and the ghost rising from the river like an avenging spirit, threw down weapons in surrender. Sarah surfaced, water streaming from her short silver hair, her sharp blue eyes meeting the town's gaze. Overcome prejudices followed in a wave of sweet satisfaction. Teammates Mike and Kate rushed forward, Mike's gruff voice breaking, "You did it. Sarah, the old woman who showed us all." The locals, once mocking her as playing soldier, now hailed her elderly men who teased her at the diner, clapping her back, their biases shattered by her triumph. "We were wrong," one admitted, his Vietnam cap tilted in respect, touching the empathy of elderly male audiences who've grappled with their own outdated views. The town teammates' acclaim was delayed justice, not just for Kane's crimes, but for every dismissed woman in uniform, a resonant victory that healed societal wounds. Eleanor's radio praise sealed it. "Phantom fully revived, you've overcome the system that buried us." The insider's exposure, hacked and broadcast, dismantled the Pentagon link, ensuring no more wasted sacrifices. In this resurrection, Sarah rose not just from the river, but from the ashes of prejudice, her story inspiring that true strength transcends age and gender, leaving a legacy of compassion for those left behind. What legacy does she bring to the community, with Kane eliminated and prejudices overcome in a surge of town acclaim? Sarah Thorne returned to Riverton, not as the isolated old woman playing soldier, but as a beacon of enduring strength. Her resurrection complete. The Mississippi flowed on, its waters now a symbol of renewal rather than secrets, carrying the echoes of her triumph to the horizon. In the days that followed, Sarah channeled her victory into something greater, a legacy that transcended her personal healing, weaving into the fabric of the community she'd long called home. Sarah opened resilience classes for young veterans at the local VFW hall, transforming the modest space into a sanctuary of shared wisdom. "Age and scars don't define us," she'd say, her sharp blue eyes meeting theirs with the quiet authority of one who'd risen from the depths, drawing from her military discipline, combat breathing, to steady nerves. Sightline tactics to assess life's threats. She taught life skills that conquered PTSD and doubt, inspiring self-worth in those grappling with their own battles. The classes became a bridge between generations. Elderly locals, once skeptical, now attended, their prejudices melted by her example, sharing Vietnam stories over coffee. In these gatherings, community flourished. Mike, the gruff teammate who doubted her, assisted with demos, his demolitions expertise now tools for building confidence. Kate, bearing her Cobra tattoo like a badge, led sessions on encryption, turning hidden pains into open dialogues. Sarah's human touch shone brightest in these moments, fostering connections that healed collective wounds. The community extended to poignant rituals, sharing with mentor Eleanor Hayes, whose 85-year-old voice quavered with pride as they pored over Pulu wood tube photos. Eleanor's Phantom Squad quote, "Shadows win wars," now a mantra for all. Family grave visits became communal, Sarah kneeling by her husband's and son's stones, whispering thanks for the letter that had fueled her power. Others joined, laying flowers for their lost, the air thick with compassion for shared losses, the empty homes, the unspoken grief of service families. These acts educated on discipline's timeless value, inspiring that true legacy lives through connections, not isolation. The message resonated deeply. Resilience transcends gender and age. Legacy lives through connections. Sarah would affirm, her words a balm for elderly listeners who've felt time's erosion. It educated on inner fortitude, inspiring self-worth amid life's storms, a reminder that overcoming biases isn't just survival, but a gift to those who follow. As a scriptwriting expert, I convey, this story reminds veteran communities that overcoming prejudices is key to healing and generational bonds. Share your journey in comments. Like, sub, to spread the legacy. The final loop closed as Sarah gazed at the river from her dock. The Mississippi's gentle flow hinting, phantom awaits timing, a positive resonant afterglow, whispering that heroes never truly fade, their strength rippling onward like the water itself,